2025 Hyundai N VGT concept race car in VR. Hello there everybody and welcome to OpaFed Gaming. I am the OpaFed. Today we are driving a 2025 Hyundai N VGT in a Gr.1 Prototype Series race. We're driving at the Daytona Road Course. We're doing 10 laps and we start at 20th of 20 cars with a rolling start. Now, whenever I drive a race at 10 laps, obviously we know we're going to need to go in and refuel. And whenever I drive a race where I know I got to refuel, even though I know the track, I always try to remind myself, take a look just after the first lap, because you got the time. Make sure you know exactly where the pit entrance is, and make sure you know where the exit is, so that you know that when you leave the pit, if you can just hammer down right away, or if there's going to be a corner coming. So keep that in mind. That's what I always try to do for myself, and I always talk about it whenever I do any of the videos. I've got 10 laps or more. Now we're going to be coming up here to a little chicane area, and then we're back up around the outer ring, and then as we turn the corner, we'll be coming up to the completion of the very first lap. Yeah, we'll be coming on the corner, and once the track flattens out and it straightens out a little bit again, on the left hand side is the entrance to the pit stop. Your refueling area. You can go off right here and you go in right over there. Now as you come around the corner, this is where the lap ends, and then when you come around this corner, you got a couple of little backs and forth, but you exit the pit stop up ahead on the left hand side. You'll be able to see a line painted on the side right over here. Try not to drive in there if there's cars in there, because you will be penalized, I would imagine. So that was the first lap out of the way, and the five laps that we're going to wait for before we go in for fuel, because we're not quite sure whether we can do 6 or 7, or and everybody's got different strategies, and that's fine. But we're going to go in after 5 and see where we're at with our fuel supply and our tire wear and stuff like that. Now, the one thing that I really like about this car is the on-screen digital readout of your 16th, 15th, your position, and then your lap counter. Because I drive in VR with the display off, and when you have the display off, you have no way of knowing what position you're in or what lap you're in unless you're counting. And after you've stopped in at the pit stop, then it gets even more obscure because people have different strategies, so you never know what position you're in. But this counter on your windshield lets you know that, which is kind of cool. I really like that. Now when you're racing on this track here, as you can see, you've got lots of room on the right hand side to go around these guys, but at this speed, when you try to go around them on the outside, it really pulls your car out towards the wall. And I try to stay away from them, but you still got to do that. You still got to pass them on the outside if you want to get by some of these guys, because they all stick to the middle of the track right down low. So you have to try and pass them on the outside if you want to get any upgrade in your position in the race. Another spot right here where I just snuck by that guy on the inside. If you come along there and you stay on the inside of the track, the cars always go to the outside and they slow down a little bit too early. You could go a little bit faster and then pass them in that corner on the inside. And I do it a few more times. I'll mention it to you when we get there. As we come on up around the corner here, once again, the outside ring is where you can do your best passing, and you got your most room. It's a nice smooth curve. If you don't go too wild, you can sneak by them on the outside without too much trouble, but don't overdo it, because when you're on the inside of the track, there's too many little curves back and forth, and with that altogether, it's hard to pass them because they just go too fast. And there's just no real areas where you can pass them. Now, when we go in for fuel after the 5th lap, we would like to be around 9th or 10th, which is where we are right now. And we might get a little bit better position as our third lap is coming to an end, but we're already sitting pretty good, so that when we do go in for fuel, we only have half the fuel capacity. Now, there was somebody was in the pit stop, and my counter went from 10th to 9th because I passed him while he was in there. Right here is where I was talking about. If you cut them on the inside, right here, they brake, you shoot by them, and you move up a position. And that's the way to do it. One car at a time, we're going to try and sneak by these guys. Now, you don't always have enough throttle to get by them as they move over and cut you off. So you have to slow down and go back behind them. And then it looks like they're zipping away. And, you know, with the way I used to drive, where I had to win the race in the very first lap, that used to bother me. And I would step on it to try and get behind them. And then they would slow down in corners like that. So now I drive my race. I drive my way, and sometimes these guys, they bounce around a little bit and you tend to follow them. Don't do that. Follow your own race, drive your race line. And when you get up behind them like this, wait till they move and then just pass them. Sometimes patience works out, and sometimes patience always works out. I mean, patience, you just gotta know when to exercise it, that's all. Now, as we're coming up around the corner here, we're going to be finishing our fourth lap. We got one more lap to go before we go in for fuel. And in the pit stop, the display will be on, so we'll be able to tell exactly how much fuel we got left and how much we still need for the second half of the race. And we can see what our tire wear is like. And which is important too. It takes a few more seconds to change the tires, but I think it's well worth the time, because we are at the moment in 5th position from 20, and we're going to drop right back down to 10th, 11th, 12th anyhow while we're in the pit stop. So but those cars that are passing you might not have gotten their fuel yet, so they'll be falling in the following laps after that. So we're just going to rip around here and try and stay with these guys. And there again, if we pass these guys here, because we're in 5th place right now, if we pass these guys and they do not go in for fuel, they will pass me right back again, which really means that you can go ahead of them and be in 3rd, but you're not really. You're still only in 5th place because these guys will pass you back again. So remember that it's kind of a play on the position on the track, depending upon when the other people are going to go off and get fueled up and get new tires put on. And it's all individual racing team's option. As we're coming up around the corner here, I like to try, if I'm going to go off for fuel, I like to try and stay down at the low point. Sometimes I cross that yellow line, which you're not supposed to do, but I do that, but that's okay. Now, as we're coming up around here, we're going into the pit stop. We can see, our tires, well, there's a couple that are worn up about 1/3 that one. And we came in, obviously, back 5th again. Like I said, those two cars just zipped by me. And it takes us a little bit to get to our fuel spot where the boys are waiting with the tires. All right, let's change them up and get it going, boys. Let's go. We can fuel her up. There we go. And then remember, when we leave the pit stop, we can hammer down, but only for a short section. Right over here. As we got the corner right up here. Now we came out of the pit stop in 10th position, so that's not bad. Halfway through the pack, halfway through the race. And there are cars on the track that have not gotten any fuel yet that you'll pass when they go get fuel. So we're sitting in a pretty good position. We're just gonna stick behind these guys until we get to the outer ring, and that's where we're gonna do our passing, because that's the best place. Right over up here. And there again too, you know, you don't have to hammer it down to the floor. You can just slowly increase your speed. You don't have to go like 500 miles an hour, and then you'll get a lot of pull on that wall if you do that. But if you slowly go by them, you get the same result. And we get back into that little chicane area again. I think that's what they call it, I'm not sure, but if I'm wrong, then maybe somebody can correct me in the comment section. That would be okay. And we're coming up around the corner here, and we're back finishing lap number 6. Like I said, these laps are decent length, but we're driving a 199, 198, 199, 200 kilometers an hour top speed. Obviously a little slower in the corners, but 200 on the straight sections, those laps are not going to take long. So, as we're coming through the little S-curve section again, we're catching up to the next guy. Car number 5, I would believe. And then once we go past the pit stop again, we'll see if any of them gone in, because I would imagine if you're doing a 10-lap race, you're probably going to go in and get fuel around lap 7, 8 if you want a different strategy. I can't understand why anybody would want to go in and get fuel after lap 9. Wait right till the last second, but I guess if somebody did, they would have their reasons for it. I like to try and split it in half, because fuel is fuel. If you got enough fuel to do 9 and then 1, that's fine. But what I'm thinking about is the tires. And if you got 10 laps and you're going to change them after 5, then that's the most you ever going to wear on them in the second half of the race. So you know your tires are going to be fine. Had I waited until I had done about 7 or 8 laps, those tires would have been getting pretty bad, and I might be sliding a little bit and not get the traction or the speed or be able to catch any of these guys. So keep that in mind. If you got enough fuel, you got enough fuel. But if you got tires on, it doesn't mean you got enough tread. Now we're finishing lap number 7 right here, and we've moved up to 3rd place. As I said, I caught a few in the pit stop fueling up. And we've got 8, 9, and 10, 3 laps left to go. And here we got that funny corner again. Now, I could have passed them probably, but a lot of times when I get near the end of a race, I've got 2 cars in front of me, and I can see both of them. And I still got 2.5 laps to go. I prefer, and I've mentioned this before, and if you watch my videos, you'll probably know exactly what I'm going to say. I prefer not to be the pace car. I prefer to be behind the guy who's the pace car, or 2 cars behind him, especially if you can see both of them. That way I don't have to set the pace of the race. I can just follow and stick with them, because these guys tend to drive a little bit slower. Now when I finally do get by them, I've had them pass me before, and it's a really weird feeling when you're driving along and you think you're going pretty good, and all of a sudden the car goes zoom, goes zipping by you. So I've been increasing my speed when I'm winning, or if I'm winning, and hoping that I can keep everybody behind me. And what happens is I don't know how fast to go, and sometimes I push it too hard and I spin out and I lose the race anyhow. So I would like somebody else, like this guy right in front of me, to be the lead car and set the pace for the other cars. Now you cannot tell where the other cars are other than with your rearview mirror. And you can see the guy that we just passed. He's still in the rearview mirror. We can see him quite clearly. He's not very far behind us. And when a car is that close to you, you're not really leading the pack, are you? You're leading it together, because he's waiting for his opportunity to zip by you when you're not paying attention. But that's exactly what we're going to do to car number 1 right there. And we've got about a lap and a half, well, maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more than a lap and a half left to go. And I think that the Opafett can probably handle leading for that long. I'm just going to drive this part here nice and steady. Not too hard. Wait till we come right out of the corner all the way before we give it any extra fuel. And then once we get on the outer ring, that's where we'll give it a little bit extra, and see if we can create a little bit of a buffer zone between that guy behind us that we just passed and ourselves. Then we don't have to worry too much about it, and we can just enjoy the race for the last lap after this one. Yeah. Here we go through this little area again. Why, I tell you, if you ever have the opportunity to drive this car in VR somewhere, if you don't have a VR headset, you got to give it a shot. I tell you, you will not be disappointed. This is just so much fun, so enjoyable, and so cool to be able to do this. It's just fantastic. I really, really love it. Anyhow, we're coming up onto our last lap as the sun is going down. Maybe we even get to see a few stars out tonight as it's getting darker and darker as we're rounding the corner here into our last lap, into first in our last lap. As we're coming up around the corner, I think she's going to darken up enough that we're going to see some stars and maybe even some fireworks. They usually have fireworks on the Daytona Road Course, but it might not get dark enough tonight. Anyhow, really been enjoying this one. I hope you enjoyed the video as well, and I hope you got maybe you got a few tips or tricks out of it, or a different strategy, and maybe you just came to watch just for the fun of it, which is awesome. Come to watch for the fun of it, like it, share it, subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss out on any upcoming videos. We're putting videos up on a daily basis, and we try to keep them as fresh and as interesting and cool as possible. If there's any kind of a race car in Gran Turismo that you'd like to see up, drop a comment and let me know. Ooh, but don't drive like the OpaFed does right there. We'll try and get the car on. Anyhow, I hope to see you back at OpaFed Gaming again real soon. Until then, you've been driving a 2025 Hyundai N VGT concept race car with me, the OpaFed.